All right, welcome in on a Friday. We've got a lot going on weather-wise and possibly some breaking news. I just put this out there right away. We could be breaking into a press conference in Alaska with President Trump and Vladimir Putin, so just stand by if you see us dump out of weather. That's what we're going to be tossing to. But we've got a lot going on weather-wise because we finally have dried out, but we also have our first hurricane of the Atlantic season. Not the first named storm, but the first hurricane, 75-mile-an-hour winds or higher, and that is Erin, which will be a big topic of conversation. But let's start with the view from uptown right now because it is a beautiful-looking sky tonight. We've had some passing showers and storms across the area, but they've been incredibly isolated, kind of your more typical summer pattern. So the fact that we're only seeing isolated stuff is a good sign that we're drying out, but it doesn't mean we're 100% dry. I just want people to understand that there's still a chance of a pop-up storm. This time of year, it's almost virtually impossible to have a zero chance of rain just because of the heat and humidity. And for the next several days, that's kind of be the pattern we're going to have to deal with, possibly just the potential of an isolated storm here or there. We'll take a look at the radar because the radar will show you a couple of these isolated storms. And really, I won't call them storms because I haven't seen much lightning, but showers. A couple of these, we just had one move over to the station, and it's right there. It's right near the airport. It's actually right over the airport, drifting south, heading towards Lake Wiley. But you see how tiny these are. These are really cool-looking cells when you see them from a distance because you see that big towering cumulonimbus cloud, and you see those from pretty far away. And some people might call them a mushroom cloud, but that's kind of the anvil shape that they take on. You see the movement of these off to the south. That's because the flow is shifted from the south and east kind of due north. So we're starting to see a little bit of a northerly flow to these many more storms down in the upstate of South Carolina. So that's where we're seeing the biggest cluster right now. Temperature-wise, it is warm. We hit 93 today. That's the warmest we've been since the 1st. That was the last time we had 93. So we're tied for the hottest day of the month so far, which has been a pretty cool month. But we've added 3 days in a row of above normal temperatures. To me, the biggest story this week has really been the humidity. The humidity has been sky high. The dew points are well into the 70s, and that's going to be the case probably going forward. Now, tonight's forecast, if you're heading out and about, a lot going on. If you're going for dinner, just be aware of that isolated shower chance, but temperatures in general will be in the low 70s. Tomorrow, hazy, hot, humid weekend, certainly not like last weekend with the rain and clouds. And the cool conditions, it's going to be in the low 90s. It is going to be a hot weekend and very steamy. Average high is 89 right now, by the way. So seeing temperatures in the low 90s above our average. Charlotte FC, huge match tomorrow against Real Salt Lake. Now, this is a big match because they've won 5 in a row. And this will give them a chance to move up in the standings. Hopefully they'll keep it going. And you know how we kind of defend the bank. That is definitely what you want to do to keep this streak going. But mid-80s for tailgating. The match should start off with mid-80s as well. Very steamy, light winds. So just a heads up if you're going the game. Definitely going to want to drink plenty of water. And that north side of the stadium is going to be pretty scorching hot until the sun goes down. Interesting low pressure off the East Coast. That's a non-tropical low, but it could develop into a weak low pressure system. The reason that's something to watch is that could tell us kind of the steering currents for Erin. Now, our rainfall forecast, 5-day rainfall forecast actually looks pretty normal. Just a 20% chance here for the next 5 days. Could be 30% at times, but certainly nothing crazy. There's Erin, just to put in perspective. I always like to show you where it is in relation to the United States. It's still not even in the Caribbean, so it's still a really far ways out there. We're losing daylight out there, obviously, so our visible image goes away, so we'll flip over to the infrared. I will tell you exactly where the center is because it's a little bit confusing when you look at this. The center is this little section right there. You see kind of an eye trying to form. It's a very small system right now. Even though the cloud cover looks wide, it's a very small core, and that small system does give it the potential to rapidly intensify. Small core systems can organize quickly. And we're anticipating this to go through what we call rapid intensification. That means going from a Cat 1 to a Cat 3 or 4 in the next 48 hours. So by the end of the weekend, we could have a high-end Cat 4, maybe low-end Cat 5. That means 140 to 145. That is going to be a significant hurricane. And the good news, it's not heading our way. This is the path. The trends have been pretty consistent. In fact, it's starting to trend offshore more, which is a good sign for several reasons. One, obviously we want it to stay offshore. I'm going to back that up because I want to go back to that just for a second. I'll show you that wind field in a second. The reason this is a good trend is the recent model runs or guidance have had 2 Hurricane Hunter aircraft in there. So the data is much more accurate than what we've had. We've been relying on satellite data and wider net data. This is actually more remote sensing, and this, last couple days we've actually got real-time data from the storm. So the fact that we have this tracking east more and more, and you can actually see the little churn to the northeast here, as if this were to stay true right now, this would pass about 700 plus miles east of us. That's really far away. And we'd be on the west side, which is the weaker side and drier side of the storm. So just all in all, good news. Now, the wind field, this is the tropical storm winds, not the hurricane force winds, 39 miles an hour, just a 5 to 10% chance of that in the Outer Banks. That's it. We're not anticipating any wind or rain issues from Erin at all for any part of the Carolinas. So let me repeat that. We're not expecting any wind or rain impacts at all from Erin. But what we are expecting are swells or waves. Significant wave heights could be maybe offshore 10 to 15, near shore 5-6 foot waves. So the swells and the high tides will be way above normal, and this could lead to some beach erosion, really bad swimming conditions. I'm talking the potential of rip currents that could be very deadly. And so if you're going to the coast, I would not change my plans. I would not cancel my plans, but I would be very cautious about going too deep in the water, keeping a close eye on those lifeguard flags, because I bet there'll be red flags out all along the coast, which means don't go in above your knees. So that is going to be our biggest indirect impact from Erin. We are not expecting direct impacts. Locally this weekend, I had to pull the skeeter meter out because two things about our wet August. It has produced ideal breeding grounds for mosquitoes. We are now more than 7 days removed from that first batch of rain at the beginning of the month, so we've had a bumper crop of mosquitoes hatching, and they are going to go crazy here over the next couple days. The light winds, hot, humid conditions, that means really, really high level mosquito activity. Usually the late summer is when we see the most activity, just because it's been a whole summer of breeding. And so that's something, if you got outdoor plans, bring the bug spray. Also, we're not quite fully into ragweed season yet, but I wanted to share with you the pollen forecast because the rain has also led to an incredibly high mold count. Mold spores are an allergen, so if you're sniffling and sneezing, thinking you got a summer cold right now, it's probably mold. Mold count is through the roof because when you get this much rain and it's hot and then humid, you get a lot of mold spores. So you probably notice all the fungus growing in your yard or on your walks. There's mushrooms everywhere because of the amount of moisture we've had. And ragweed is starting to show up, though it's kind of in the low to mid end. Ragweed tends to ramp up towards the end of August and into September. And ragweed season is always a tough one. That is like my number one allergen. I do get them in the spring, but man, ragweed can be brutal. So your weekend forecast, we'll break it down hour by hour here. We're going to see temperatures both days around 90, 92 degrees, very steamy, just a 20% chance of a stray thunderstorm. I'll show you the 7-day forecast because the next 3 days will be the hottest of the next 7. 92, 93 degrees all 3 days, and it'll feel like 100 degrees plus. We will start to see some cooler weather. Now, this could be another indirect impact of Erin. It's going to be well offshore, but because of the bigger flow around it and the trough over the northeast, it should actually bring some cooler air from the north into the eastern U.S. So I do expect probably temperatures will be trending a little bit cooler next weekend into the first day of school for Charlotte-Mecklenburg schools, which, believe it or not, is now just a mere 10 days away. And every kid out there is crying right now. But no, it'll be a good first day of school, only mid-80s and no storms to worry about. So that's a look at your 10-day forecast. Tim Buckley is going to join me here in just a few seconds. And again, if you see us have to toss to breaking news, we are awaiting a huge press conference in Alaska with President Trump and Vladimir Putin. So we may jump out of this. So Tim, I don't know how far into this we're going to get, but we'll talk as much as we can until we get preempted by the president.